So it's 6 o'clock, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'm going to call a roll. Rita Villa is here. Gary Johnson.
Here.
Anne Marie Whitman is excused. Marcia Newman.
Here.
Lisa Karajian will arrive late. And Lisa Sarkin.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is approval of the May 3rd meeting minutes. Y'all have seen those. And I just ask that they, unless someone has an objection, I'm going to ask for them to be approved in the absence of objection.
I make the quorum, and even though I wasn't there, I still can vote on it. So,
That's right.
okay, I don't have any problem.
Perfect. Okay, so approved in the absence of objection. Okay, we have two members of the public here. We have Peter Cole, and we have, I'm sorry, I'm having a brain moment, Victoria Sholem. I cannot remember your last name at the moment. And neither of you submitted a public comment card, so then we have no public comments. Therefore, there is no response to public comments. The next item is the presentation, discussion, and possible motion with respect to the proposed requirements for commercial cannabis activity. And then the next motion, item on the agenda after that is the proposed motion requesting seating at City Hall for authorized NC representatives. And I'm going to take the items out of order. I'm going to take item 7 before item 6 to give Lisa just that little bit more time to get here. So I brought a copy of that proposed motion. It was originally came out from Bel Air Crest. So the motion that we're going to look at is where it says motion.
Here.
No, I have one for everybody.
Oh, I gave her the one I brought.
Okay, look here.
Okay.
We all have one now in front of us.
We'll keep
So-
this for Lisa.
The motion is that the Board of the City Neighborhood Council proposes the following motion. In the interest of ensuring that local constituencies represented by Los Angeles neighborhood councils are heard, the Studio City Neighborhood Council requests that seating be reserved at city departmental hearings, commission meetings, and neighborhood and council meetings for members of neighborhood councils who have submitted community impact statements on items before their body. The Studio City Neighborhood Council for the request that the City Council introduces a motion to amend Administrative Code Section 22.819 to reflect this policy. I am bringing that motion. I need a second.
Second.
Okay, second by Marcia. So moved. RCE.
SHA, right? Yep. I have something I think we should add.
Okay, so we are going to open this to discussion. So Lisa, you go ahead.
I think that it should be more than just city council meetings. I think it should be city council committee and
It's city department hearings, commission meetings, and council meetings.
well, city departmental hearings would be what land use would be, not necessarily the committee meetings of the city council.
Commission meetings.
Commission meetings are commission meetings, people appointed by the mayor. So I think the city committees, the city
You're talking
council
about like
committee.
plum committees.
Correct.
How about
So that should say maybe city council committees.
before the and say city council committee meetings and city council meetings?
Yes.
City council.
So that's last.
Yeah.
City council
City, and should say
committee
city committee meetings,
meetings
and city council meetings. Exactly.
and
And city,
city
council.
council meetings. Okay.
Because
Got it.
no
And I'm fine with
confusion
that.
with any of them.
Right. It's a good
That it's
clarifying
and
comment.
Ah!
Hello, Anne Marie.
Hi.
Oh,
Sorry,
you're here.
I'm late.
Thank you. No, I'm so glad you're here. We have had the roll, so we will amend the roll to indicate that Anne Marie is here. I had given you excused absence because I thought last time when we got the thing on the change, right, that maybe I didn't understand what you were telling me.
No.
So,
Sorry.
excellent. So take your time and catch your breath. We actually have started with the second motion, which is simpler, so that you'd be able to, you and Lisa, who's also going to be about 15 minutes, would have time to digest this. And you've given her the thing. Okay, so this is the motion right here that we're discussing right now.
Okay.
But I will send that to you with what we've amended it to be. So I moved it. There was a second by Marcia. And now we've had a couple of minor amendments to that, which I accept. So I open it for discussion. Marcy, do you want to say anything about this? Or do you want to know anything about the background of it?
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that
Okay.
the local neighborhoods don't get into the city council meetings, and we have a very important voice. I mean, this is ground level. This
Right.
is where it impacts us the most. We have to have a voice.
Exactly. And this arose out of the fact that there was a meeting, a very important meeting down at City Council, at the city council meeting, and there were a lot of people packed the room from different constituencies, and there were several neighborhood councils who had community impact statements, but their presidents were not allowed to enter the room because the room had already reached capacity.
350, I think
And they
it was.
wouldn't like shift them, let someone come out so that the people that were representing their communities would get time to speak. And that was the genesis of this, that it should be known that they should be allowed to enter the room, even if they had to leave again right after making their statement, that at least the neighborhood council that had spent the time to put forth a community impact statement would get to make that presentation, because we're supposed to be allowed 5 minutes to speak. Any neighborhood council with a CIS is supposed to be allowed 5 minutes to speak, and they couldn't even get in the room. So that was the genesis of this. So
why are you
That's it.
giving me this one? Because this is about
The-
Airbnbs.
no, it's just the motion down below. That's what generated it. The motion is only the part that I read down
They couldn't
below.
do,
Okay.
they couldn't read, neighborhood councils get 5 minutes to speak if you have a registered CIS. And she did, or
They did.
did, and they couldn't get in there. So that's why they sent off the neighborhood councils, I think, everywhere.
Right.
This reason why this
Explaining
motion
that they
should-
had appeared on this particular item and weren't allowed access to the room.
I mean, that happened
That's
to
what they
me
were
before
saying.
also, which I could not get on something, I don't remember what it was, but I couldn't get in the door.
So-
And I was sent to another room, but that didn't mean that I could come in and say anything, because I was.
And that's the
in
issue, that they should be
Yeah,
allowed
big
to
issue.
speak. So,
Huge.
that part at the top is just the background for when this happened to them and what prompted them to bring that, which is, anyway, just there. Barry, did you have anything you
No,
wanted to comment?
I'd
Okay.
like our amendment.
You're happy with the amendment? Okay. So then I will call for a vote on this item. All in favor of the amended motion?
Are you ready?
I read it,
She'll
so I
catch
knew,
up.
I'm sure it's fine.
Okay.
I liked what you had here initially.
Okay. All right, so then it's unanimous. Thank you. All right, so this one we will move on with. This goes here, this goes here. Sorry, what happened to me? Did I end up with no draft minutes?
You can have my copy.
Okay,
if
I
you
just
need
want to
it.
set back for what we approved. So the draft minutes were approved from the main meeting.
The main meeting, okay.
Right, and the meeting is being recorded
Okay.
as well, so
Okay.
we have double
All right.
coverage,
And we did nothing with 3, 4, and 5.
right, because we had no stakeholders giving comments and
And
stuff.
no response.
And no
Okay.
government response.
Right.
So, okay, so now we're going back to item 6.
Barry, do you save those minutes?
Usually not. Do you want a copy?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so, this item,
I'm sorry, can I just?
Absolutely.
I'm
it's all right, Emery.
present tense now, okay. Number 6 is.
Number
what
6
we're
is-
doing now?
Yes.
So you did 7 while I.
Right,
Okay.
we took 7 out of order.
Okay.
And I
Because
said that
we knew it
before you
was
came
easy.
in. We knew it
And
was
you're gonna
kind of
send me
easy.
the.
Yeah,
motion.
electronic version.
Okay, very
With
good.
of the amended
With the
motion.
amend- right, okay,
so,
got it.
I'll
Thanks.
send you the electronic version of the amended motion.
Okay, thank you.
So, okay,
See my
then
gibberish?
here we are. We're on presentation, we're on item 6, presentation, discussion, and possible motion with respect to the proposed requirements for commercial cannabis activity, in the city of Los Angeles. Council file, and I will put the council file number in there for you. I didn't have it with me at the time I did this. There is a specific council
Okay.
file. I want to be sure it gets with the right one.
Right.
Because there are several council files related to cannabis. So I need to be sure that we have the right one, and I want to check actually with Herb Wesson's office as to which one he wants this attached to. So there we have that. So I had previously sent everybody the link to the regulations. Marcia has a copy of those in front of her right now.
Those are she's looking
My
at
copy is here. And so what I did is I've reviewed these, the regulations in detail. And I have the analysis and the comments
This is what we
that
from these two
resulted
things.
Okay.
from the review of these regulations. So we'll just go through them. So the regulations are here. Remember last time we dealt with the issue of sensitive use, land use sensitive uses, and the ordinance related to that. We addressed the fact that there will be a social equity concept or provision, and there is an ordinance related to that, and we said that we're going to wait for more information to come forth before we weigh in on that. And that I thought that information was actually going to be in these regulations. However, when I look at these regulations, again, the social equity is referenced but not delineated sufficiently for us to spend time on that. So I've made no comment with respect to in my comments with respect to the social equity portion of this, because it just says there shall be social equity. I'm like, okay, it doesn't
But
mean
how do you
anything
do
at
it?
this point. Right. So we need the specifics, and we're waiting for that, and that will come because there's a specific motion related to that. We're just not there yet. So, what first thing I did is I read all of this, all of these requirements, as it said here, and made copious notes. And after that, I sat back and said, okay, there are certain things that are like of overriding concern as opposed to being specifically related to an item within the requirements. So on the first page, the first page and a half, you have the overriding concerns, our general comments on the proposed requirements for commercial cannabis activity in the city of Los Angeles. It's basically that sentence. And so my first overriding concern relates to the concept of limited immunity. So just to give you a little bit of background is the state is now licensing cannabis operations, right? It's in the process of bringing forth those regulations, and there will be licensing, and that should happen sometime right around the end of the year. If it gets delayed, it'll fall into 18, but presently it's supposed to start January 1 of 18, their licensing process. So before the state, so presently we have no licensing at the state level, and we were operating, before this last Prop M vote, we were operating under Prop D. And so the whole concept of Prop D was a bit confusing. There were a limited number of businesses that that qualified under Prop D and that were allowed to operate, and there were and obviously it was operating in still not in a totally legalized capacity, and there was a lot of confusion about that. And the city attorney ultimately allowed that under Prop D, the Prop D just gave the owners of these businesses limited immunity to operate medical marijuana businesses. So we were in medical marijuana only, and only in a limited immunity situation. Not the same as a license, right? A license or a CUP allows you to operate legally. That's it. You have legal standing. The other way, you just have limited immunity. So since the time of Prop D, the circumstances have obviously changed. Other states have, clearly entered the process of giving licenses as opposed to limited immunity, and our state is now going to give licenses. And so we think that in order for the businesses to feel safe in the city of Los Angeles, because other cities within the state of California are giving licenses. Bellflower is already giving licenses. There are a number of them. I can't remember them all, but there are a number of them. So they're issuing licenses. If we don't make the owners of cannabis businesses feel comfortable to operate within the city of Los Angeles, then they're going to go somewhere else, and that the revenue attendant to that will go somewhere else, or they will continue to operate in an underground fashion. Either of those two concepts can apply. My whole attitude and approach to the cannabis industry is that the goal should be to get everybody under the tent. No one should be left outside. All the businesses should come in and should be required to have licensing or certificate of compliance or CUP, whatever it's going to be, and they should all be taxed appropriately, and they should be legislated, and the neighborhood councils should be weighing in on the land use implications of those, and individual neighborhood councils within the city should be able to say, we want this, we don't want this, and ask for community benefits or whatever they want from these individual businesses in the process, and say where they want something or they don't want something, right? So that's what we want to do. So that's my overall concept.
There's no community benefit whatsoever except the taxes derived from it.
Well,
But Rita, would that be the number you have in your community? Is that what you're thinking also could be the
yes.
neighborhood councils?
It's okay. Don't worry. We have a quorum and we're good. And yeah, I would rather have you up and in the. Thank you.
Rita, do
Don't
people
forget
have
to sign in, Lisa.
buy
And I'll have
license
to
every
sign in
year?
too. Here, okay.
Yes,
Aye.
there will be an annual renewal process, and I address that in here even further than they address it. So we'll come to that point. So at any rate, that's the statement of overriding considerations. That's the thought process for how we reach that. So the next overriding thing that's not specifically addressed here, but could be in conflict with, I didn't give you one of these. Hold on. Do we have another one of these somewhere? Because I made 6. So there should have been one for everybody.
I have
I have
one.
one.
I have one.
I got the big one.
Mine is in my book. Okay, sorry.
So organized.
I know. Okay.
So she's explaining
So,
limited.
right, so we just went,
first
kind of
one.
finished going through the limited immunity concept, and so therefore, many of the businesses want to have a licensing and or a CUP process rather than a limited immunity concept. So that's one of the overriding considerations that's not addressed here. The next one relates to the locations of use centers. So at the in the regulations and in what we reviewed last time, the land use sensitive uses, use centers are not included in that ordinance as a sensitive use. But at the state level, they are included in the state's ordinance as a sensitive use with a 600 feet
600
clearance.
feet?
600 feet, right. In the city's land use sensitive use ordinance presently, because it's a draft, it's proposing 800 feet from sensitive uses, but use centers not
use centers
included.
not included.
So in order to prevent a conflict between the state and the city, it's suggested that because the city is not requiring that the city should opt out at the state level from incorporating use centers as a sensitive use, and that is a process that can be taken, and we're recommending that they do that here.
Don't we want to be the same as state law?
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Because the city is not going to incorporate youth centers into their
Why not?
law.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a lot of discussion about why not, and it has a lot to do with the location and the very limited amount of access that you can have, and that was just not, it's not one of the things that they proposed to include were youth centers. They include libraries, schools, all of the other things that we discussed last time, but that's not one of them. And we didn't make that the comment to add youth centers in our in the board's motion that they passed
But
last
this
month
is
either.
this next one step, right?
Yes, but this is not, so we're just saying, so we already have defined sensitive uses, the board's already opined on what sensitive uses should be, that's not included. I'm just highlighting here that they need to reconcile with the state.
Okay.
And that the
so-
reconciliation, in my mind, the reconciliation should be, because this is what we've already agreed would be the sensitive uses, that we need to opt out at the state level. So,
Okay, let me just ask one question. Do we understand that the youth centers were not included?
absolutely.
Okay, so then, okay, I understand why you're saying.
Yes.
I don't agree with that. I think we should go to the 800,
Yeah, I
but
do
it
too.
would be, but,
too.
okay.
Because I think it
But
could
it's
be.
not 800. It's
600.
the
I know. I think we
it-
should say that we think it should be that and that should be included, but if we already.
But we already went the other way.
We can't
so.
make a reconsideration of something like that?
I-
Because I know there's a reason more of why you don't want to
But-
be in conflict.
Right. Well, I don't want to be in conflict, and we looked at the maps very clearly that we went over in
it's-
detail last time.
Yeah.
Showed where you could do various things. It would
Yeah.
make all of that would get totally
I forgot
skewed.
about the maps.
But-
Given
Here-
because they're
here-
so limited as to where these things can be placed now, right? That's putting another level on. It's not. It just wasn't the intent, and so
What
I
youth
propose
youth centers are you referring to?
Is it like a boys and girls club?
that. You know,
YMCA?
that is what comes to my mind. YMCA and Boys and
It's
Girls
not spelled
Club.
out any place
No.
like what it is.
No.
But it's got to be something.
And
like
youth
that.
centers
So what-
is a bit ambiguous.
It is.
Even,
So what
even
about
at
like
the state level.
These tutoring places?
That's not a youth center.
I wouldn't call that.
That's a
would be center.
business.
That would,
That's just another business.
but there could be a youth center at a church.
Yes, and that's part of the problem, is that they don't want to have to exclude all of the churches
Right.
in the process. And that is one of the things that we discussed at the working
Right.
group level, was the impact of the various locations of all the churches.
Here's what I think we need to think about. At some point in time, the cannabis industry is going to go big, and it's going to be taken over by behemoths. It's bound to happen.
It's happening already.
Okay. And we have to prepare our community for them. They're going to have lots of attorneys to look over loopholes and put in cannabis shops where they're going to find the smallest little loophole for them to have distribution outlets. And I think we have to be as definitive as possible so that we put as many obstacles in their way so they don't have loopholes.
Right, and that's one of the reasons I think we need to put this in here, is so that it doesn't become a loophole or an area of conflict. The point is that there won't just suddenly be a cannabis business here or there. Any of these businesses, and that's the point of this whole process, is going to have to go through the regulatory process and the application process. And even the threshold for submitting an application is going to be quite high, right? It's like
And
several.
there's a huge fee attached
Yeah, that's
to
it.
right?
It's going to be a huge fee. The number started at 7,500, and it seems to be creeping up as
Okay.
the notice. Wait, just let me finish. As the costs of the program are accumulating, right? So, for that reason, I think that there's going to be enough of a barrier to entry. And one of the things that they are required, any cannabis business, and the application process is horrific. They have to have 1,000 things, and that's what's always in this regulations that I sent you. I mean, it lists every single thing. I mean, there's like a zillion things. But at any rate, the point is that there are, in there are so many restrictions already. And one of those restrictions, which is an important restriction, is that they come to the neighborhood council. All right, and that has to be documented, that neighborhood council had notice, et cetera, and that's one of the points that I have in here, clarifying on that. So we have a lot of opportunity to put the brakes on, and in a number of places, and the threshold for how you're going to get there is pretty significant. Presently, they're thinking that there may be only like 200 or so businesses that will qualify for this, and so I'm not
The
convinced that
commercial
that's
sales,
correct.
not the rest of them. Okay.
200 in the city, every total.
That's what they're thinking. It's like going to be 200 licenses or whatever.
But as you know, there's other there's other things
Other
that are
things.
right. Yeah.
So I'm not sure that is correct. I think that number is kind of low.
I do too.
But but even if it's higher, I think there are a lot of places
The barrier to
there are a
entry
lot
is
of
high.
barriers to entry. Yes. So that's where we are with that. So that's why I identify youth centers and reconciling, right? Because everything I want to happen is a reconciliation between the two things, so that we don't have conflicts in places where we end up with litigation, and to get everybody into the process.
Which is what we have now.
Right, because right now we have a mess, litigation and whatever, or non-enforcement, both things that we don't want, and
Right.
illegal places popping up that no one will enforce.
For medical marijuana.
Right.
Yeah, because nobody will enforce it.
But no, because there's no enforcement and because there's no real regulation, nothing happens to them. So one of the things that's going to happen as a result of this, you're going to end up with a distinct group with specific numbers and specific requirements that have been specifically approved by the commission, by the department, et cetera, et cetera. And if they're not on that list, there will be enforcement of those, a closing down of the others who didn't make the process. And there's a very short time frame for that they have to close down,
it's
right?
30 days.
Yeah, it's like 30 days they have to be gone. So I think that it's going to be all right. I want to get reconciliation between state and federal. I want to get everybody under the tent, right? That's should be our goal, is to
Okay.
get everybody into the process so we can have proper, distinct regulation of a specific number of businesses operating according to firm rules, not wishy-washy, right? Okay. The next thing relates to timing. I'm concerned about the timing of the city's application process because the state is rolling out their regulations through the end of the year, but many of the city's regulations are based on drafts of the state's regulations or says as per the state. So as the City of Los Angeles cannabis application process is scheduled to begin in October, not all of the state's regulations are going to be in place, and by that time, so I think that the differences in the timetables need to be reconciled. I mean, just, we can't have
Right.
a gap. It has to be all the same. The next thing is enforcement and allocation of budget for enforcement, an overriding concern. So we're requesting that the responsibility for enforcement of each of the specific requirements be assigned to a particular department. We also request that the manner of identifying the failure to comply with the requirements be specifically set forth and that such identification not be based solely on reports of noncompliance by stakeholders, but should be incorporated into an annual compliance audit in the renewal process. Okay, I think that's really important, and this is a point that I've made very strongly already with the council office, that I think there has to be an annual compliance audit. It can't be,
You have to do it for your CUP.
you've got to do this, and you have to prove that you did it, and you have to have verification when you do your renewal process. So that's what I'm asking for.
And there's going to be people employed
That's
to
what I
do
want.
to
that.
do that.
Really?
That's what, yes,
And that's going to be annually?
Yeah, annually. I think if they don't do that, then this
Yeah.
whole thing falls apart, and you're going
Yeah.
to just have
There-
a ridiculous mess.
You know how the Department of Building and Safety operates. You
Yeah.
have to make a complaint.
Right.
That can't be this.
No,
It can't be our
not-
responsibility.
exactly.
Because we won't, there's so many regulations, there's no way to know.
So can it be attached to the business license, the tax
Well, that's what it will be
license?
due.
It'll be attached to that,
it's
right?
basically
So every
they
renewal.
they will have to renew their certificate of compliance
That-
or
At the
license
same
Or the
time.
CUP, whatever they end up
whatever
calling
they
it.
end up calling
Right.
it. Has to be renewed every year, and
Right.
in that process, they have to submit the fact that they have had a compliance audit and that they passed it. And if
Right.
not, the remediation efforts and what remediation efforts would be done and the time frame for such.
Is that audit a
So-
physical and financial?
Yeah, that's, I mean,
It's later on
It's
in
later
the
on
spiel.
that I talk about that, but yeah, every aspect, every aspect.
How are liquor stores regulated?
By the
Shouldn't it
state.
State.
It's pretty much the same way.
Because I was thinking that it should be similar.
Right.
We
And
all
that's-
agree, but
that's
it's not
kind of
exactly
why-
what they have here, but
right.
close enough.
But that's what I'm trying to propose, is that there be a compliance audit, and that it be annual, and it be in conjunction with the renewal
That's
process.
going to eat up all the tax revenues hiring these.
It will have an impact, and I'm coming to that, so,
Was there not a discussion about this in that big long thing that you asked us to read?
no.
No, it's not
No,
in there.
they don't have a they don't
Wow.
address, I know, this is
You
me.
want to see all my
going, no.
notes? Or where's this,
Yeah,
where's that, where's this?
But the compliance
I have
audit
notes.
is a concept that has been my concept, and I brought that I'm bringing that forward. I just feel like, it can't be, as Lisa calls it, complaint based, right? It has to
Complaint-based,
be.
right.
It has to be.
They have to have enough
There has to
employees.
be enough employees, and it has to be done properly. So then, additionally, the goal of administration and regulation of the industry should be for it to be self-funded. Therefore, the funds raised from the application process and a specific allocation of the taxation of the businesses should be segregated and used to fund the operations of the department, including administration and enforcement activities.
So I
There
just
you go.
have one more thing that I realized. There's going to be a cannabis department.
Yeah.
So, but all the other departments are going to have to be working
Right.
in conjunction
But
with it.
all
So
those
should
departments-
cannabis be in some of these
No,
locations?
because the
Okay.
capital D department is referred to within the document as the
Okay.
cannabis department. Okay, so that's why it
I
has
wanna
capital
work
D
in that
department.
No.
I just have a headache all the
Okay.
time, wouldn't I?
All right, so the next overriding,
Where do I sign up?
we have a lot to go through, so we're just gonna
Sorry.
kind of keep plowing on. So regulation of edibles, all right? So the requirements are silent at least I didn't see it, on the regulation of edibles. So a section should be added to specifically address the manner of their regulation, including the allowable appearance of such edibles, and the department responsible for that regulation. And the reason I say the department responsible for that is because, as we all know, food is
County.
a county responsibility. Like the ones who give grade A restaurant, grade B restaurant, that's a county. So if the county's into the whole food regulation thing, then they need to be the ones, they may need to be the ones doing this, and that's fine. Somebody needs to be specifically responsible for doing it. And the reason that I specifically also say about the appearance of the edibles is that we don't want the edibles to look like candy. So, or some
bakery,
other
brownies and
right, or like, gee, this is a fun looking cookie. We don't want that. It has to be a distinct appearance, right? So that it wouldn't be a child.
Confused.
A child wouldn't pick it up because they have gummy bear marijuana thingies, right? Well, we don't want that sitting on somebody's table and then kids eat that, right?
But even a
Because
cookie or
they think-
brownie,
right.
a kid is going to reach
That's
for,
right.
even
Hard
though
to
it's
enforce.
not
Right.
got
So,
a cartoon
no,
figure
it's not
on
going to
it.
be hard to enforce because there's going to be regulations, and if the regulations regulate the appearance, then it will say it cannot look like this or this or this, so that product has to have an alternative, distinct look and packaging. I mean, the regulations are very
some
tight.
Of them have
that
it
they're
packaged so
they're
it doesn't look like candy.
right. So that's the point. All right. The next overriding concern is the financial operations of the cannabis businesses. So most banks and other financial institutions will not accept cannabis businesses as customers for fear that their federal licenses would be
Yeah.
jeopardized.
I knew that.
And that's a big deal.
big deal.
So cannabis businesses have either had to process transactions like covertly through accounts not specifically identified as belonging to a cannabis business, or transacting all business on a cash basis. All right. So this situation has made it difficult to properly account for, monitor, and audit sales and other transactions. The City of Los Angeles should consider establishing a financial institution for the specific purpose of making accounts available to cannabis businesses through which funds from cannabis-related transactions could be processed. If they did this, that the city is not going to lose their license to the federal government because they have no license to lose. Whereas the Bank of America gives a cannabis business account, they could be in big time trouble. So,
Wouldn't it be
That's
better
fine.
for the state to establish banks?
we can't
Tell the state.
tell
what
the
to do.
state what to do. We can say what the city should do. And so, therefore, we're reviewing the city's regulations, and that's what we're commenting on. It may be a good idea for the state to do it, but somebody at the state level needs to address that. That's not the within the purview of this particular review of this particular document.
Do you have the thought of sending this to like a DRIN
A what?
when it's done? Our assemblyman.
Our assemblyman, I
or
maybe.
or Hirschberg or any of those guys.
I hadn't anticipated that, but it may be something that we want to do if it gets through, depending what our board decides to do with it, right? Because whatever we do here goes to the board, and the board ultimately makes their decision as to what they want to do with it.
Okay, but I do think you should send it to the state people too. Not
Yeah,
the feds,
okay.
of course, because they don't
Right.
care.
I mean, there are ways to get around this legally, and one would be like Bitcoin, cryptocurrency,
Right. But
or
I mean,
PayPal.
the whole point is that the city
has to be a way to
the
audit.
city needs to be able to do something that's auditable to have these transactions be processed and controlled. And in a cash basis situation, you have no control over the situation. So anyway, all right, we're going to keep going. Comments on specific items within the proposed requirements. So definitions. On page 10, number 10 on page 5, if you happen to have the document in front of you, let me pull mine out here, Lisa, so you can kind of look along with me.
Right.
And
Okay.
Anne Marie, you're going to have to put that in front. Lisa, you'll have to put that in
Yeah.
front of you, and you guys.
Number 5.
Yeah. Hold on. So let me just pull this back over here.
It's a definition that
It's
a
page
certificate of
page 5,
compliance.
number 10.
I think they have to display that also.
Okay.
They do, you'll see that.
So you'll see,
It's in
the
there.
definition of proper notice is what I'm
Fine.
talking about here. And
Get
proper notice
compliance.
needs to be given, it doesn't have a time frame for the proper notice. So proper notice,
By the way, it was all over, everything that's been said.
Oh,
has
it's
been
proper
over
notice.
head.
I'm so sorry. It's
It
not number
says
5.
Oh, page 5,
Page
number
five.
10.
Okay,
Ten,
we're
proper
proper
notice.
Over
Right.
head.
Marcia, I gave you the
Well,
wrong
it's
thing to look
that's
at.
very-
Typing.
Oops.
sorry, I can't help that.
This is
Okay,
the one
so
she's
proper
talking about.
notice needs to be given, there needs to be a time period for proper notice. And I feel that proper notice has to be at least 45 days because the neighborhood council process takes at least 45 days to get through, right? I mean, they mail it, it could sit in the office for a week or so before the mail's picked up by the neighborhood council and then distributed to the proper committee, and then the proper committee does, land use, takes and puts it on the agenda, and then it gets to a board meeting. It's gotta be at least 45 days. So
Please.
that's why I
Does
proposed
they have
that.
30 in there?
They have no time
They have
period.
no time.
I thought I read 30 days.
do you want-
That's in a different
Do you
spot
want
for
to add
different
maybe
things.
something like to allow the neighborhood council's time to
Not
process
here.
or anything? Okay.
Not here. I have that in another place.
Okay.
Okay, but at this point, that's what it says, because we're just in the definitions, right?
Yep.
But I want to include in the definition the concept of time.
Okay.
All right. The next one is commercial cannabis activity application processing. So general, number 4, if you go to page 10,
Number,
Number 4 on page
right,
10.
number 4, 4C triple I1
yeah,
on page
4C
10.
triple I1.
Where I am here.
okay.
That's actually on
Bless
9
you.
on mine.
Does it? Okay, it's on 9.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Bless you, bless you.
Thank you.
Approved application.
Okay, yes, but it flies over, it continues,
Yes,
it's the
but in
continuation
application.
paragraph is at the beginning of page 10. So I'm gonna make that say page 9/10.
Nomination.
Yeah. So if the department accepts an appeal, the appeal is going to be transmitted to the city council. The city council is then required to act within 15 council days on the appeal, or the commissioner or the department's decision will be final. But my problem is that if a council doesn't act, then the application is denied.
Just automatically.
Right. So as the applicant will have paid a significant application fee and incurred a lot of costs in reaching this point, I think there should be a process whereby the city council specifically advises the applicant that if they decide not to hear the appeal, because that's also what generates a close down of the shop when the appeal
And they're
is
giving
denied.
their money back?
No.
There is no refund. So I think
If you
they
don't
have
do it right,
You're right.
you don't get your money back.
And
That's
if
it.
they don't
But it
approve
shouldn't
you,
be the
you're
council
just-
that
right.
screws them over.
I'm just saying they should be notified as what happened, so they know when their timetable starts to run. It shouldn't be put in a drawer and then we never know what happened. It's just not right. So that's my comment there. General number 5, page 10, so 5 is here. And so, God bless you, Lisa.
Thank you.
So this section requires the applicant to cease all commercial cannabis activity at a location or premises identified in the application once the application has been denied. So I want to know which department will be responsible for enforcement of this provision and where will the funding for the enforcement come from?
Here's where my other
So,
question mark is at the end of this one that we couldn't figure out.
thank
There's
you.
where the question
That it
mark
belongs, it should be a question
Yes.
mark, Lisa, you're right. Okay, so, so what I'm saying is, there should be a statement in the document that says, when they're denied, then that application, a process, so when they're denied, that application and name of that entity goes to a particular department, and that particular department is responsible for going out in 45 days or whatever, 30 days. I guess it's 30 days, I think is what it is.
And to make sure
And
they're
being
closed.
sure that they're closed, right? And if not, then the
something.
police should be called, right? And enforcement procedures should move forth for violation, because there are provisions for violations, what happens if you violate. So that violation process should begin. So that's why I said that. All right, page 11, item number 1, under Proposition M, priority processing. So applicants under Proposition M priority processing are only allowed to apply for retailer cannabis activity, which may include on-site cultivation as allowable under Prop D. Such applicants may have also had an off-site indoor cultivation, so they should be allowed to either include that cultivation in their prioritized application or be granted priority entry into the non-retail registry as long as their application is submitted within the first 30 days of the first date of applications being made available to the public. Why is this important? we have situations where we have property compliant operators, and part of the thing of being a property compliant operator was that you had on-site grow, but some of them also had off-site grows. All right, and off-site
no
grows,
rules.
right?
Which is what?
No,
There's no
no legalization, no nothing. There was
It's
no
just
there was no immunity for those people with off-site grows. Period. This just was not allowed. So they were operating illegally. So but now they're saying if you can prove that you've been operating illegally for X period of time, then you get onto the registry. And my position is that either as long as there's a registry, anyone who could, if you were property compliant and you had an off-site grow, you should be able to get onto the registry too. Or else there should be no registry. The registry should be eliminated. I mean, either everybody's in the same place or nobody, right?
That way, maybe the big conglomerates can't suck up all of the space.
Well,
for
that
the
is.
small
I mean, I
guys.
think that's what we have to plan for, that we don't have a monopoly.
Well, that's the concept. The
You can
concept
only have
of
3 places.
the concept of keeping of the registry is so that the little guys that are here operating already don't get mowed over by some big people from outside that come
Right.
over. So that's why we have why the registry was incorporated in these regulations or requirements. So that all I'm saying is everybody who was here doing an off-site grow illegally should still be allowed to get on this registry if they're doing their proof. You shouldn't disadvantage someone just because they were also property compliant and operating a retail environment. So that's what this is.
Does everybody, even the ones that are already operating that are property compliant, everybody has to go through this process and everybody has
Absolutely.
to come to the neighborhood councils,
Absolutely.
right? Okay.
Everybody.
Okay.
There are no
Nobody-
exceptions.
Absolutely.
That's good.
There's no like grandfathering. It's not like that.
okay. That's not in here yet. We have to watch
the
for that,
tent,
though.
the
Okay.
the tent, right? Everybody in the same process under the tent.
That's the only way
Okay.
it's fair, but.
Right.
we
Everybody
have
on
to
the
watch
same
so they
page.
don't add that.
All right. So no, it won't be added.
Okay.
I've been
But
at
you know,
a
it's
lot of the
happened
working.
before.
Yes,
Okay,
but
okay.
that's none of the working group things have been.
Well, you know, my
yeah.
2 things are that, and that they're gonna take the money somehow out of this and put it in the general fund.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so then cannabis activity application requirements. I think that's where I am.
All right.
Oh, no,
One
I'm
up.
sorry,
One
one up.
up.
The certificate of compliance types available for application. So retailer commercial activity, if you look at page
Did
14.
you discuss this one?
You did.
Did I skip that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the non-retail registry, that the non-retail registry
it goes
processing,
along with that.
page 2, kind of goes with the
Okay.
beginning, with the other one, but we'll just go
Oh, okay.
through it. And say, so what that says is indoor cultivation of commercial cannabis outside of the Proposition D compliance dispensaries was not legal before the passage of Prop M. It may be difficult for these businesses to document that they have no outstanding tax payments due and therefore qualify for the registry. Most banks have refused to open bank accounts for cannabis businesses, and much of this business has been done on a cash basis. So what specific documentation will be acceptable in light of the illegal / cash basis nature of the indoor cultivation businesses? It's just a question that I'm raising for them, because they say you have to prove
Doesn't explain
that your
it well.
taxes are up to date, but they don't say how and what they're going to accept for that. So I think that there should be further definition of that. And basically, I think, having spoken to the council office about this, it was they're going to look to the business tax that they've paid, and
Which there's no audit for, but
they're going to look to the fact that they've at
least.
least done something. And whether that's sufficient or not, I don't know, but we need to let somebody tell us that. So I raise the question. Certificate of compliance types available for application. So retailer commercial cannabis activity, an applicant for a type 10A producing certificate of compliance can only hold 3 certificate of compliance per owner. Okay. So, including delivery for retail commercial cannabis activity. Therefore, property compliant operators should be given given priority access to a certificate of compliance for delivery of retailer commercial cannabis activity. So what we're saying here is that they were trying to make delivery that if you're allowed to have 3 types of licenses, and we're saying that okay, if you have your retail distribution, and that's one of your licenses, and you have the off-site grow cultivation, so you're on that license, that you should also be able to have your delivery license and not be put at the back of the line for the delivery of your product when you're already in operation. And a delivery is just another manner of getting your product
But that's
out there.
only delivery of your own product.
Yes.
Not delivering it to people.
Isn't
We're not on
Prop
that
D
yet.
only
sorry.
referring to medical marijuana?
Yes, but those that were Prop D compliant are the ones that are getting Prop M priority access.
Because they're already in business.
Right, because they're already in business. So that's how that ties,
But it has
Gary.
to be the
But I
legal
understand
ones,
your
not the
question.
others.
Right.
Okay, but one more thing. I'm so sorry because the 3 licenses I thought meant something entirely different after reading this. I thought it meant they could have 3 shops. or-
Yes, and it also means that.
So that
3
each
locations.
Of the
Each of the 3
can
locations.
still, each one can have the delivery and the other
no,
ones?
you get to have 3 licenses. If you pick
Oh, if you
having
pick 3 businesses, you don't get the others.
you get 3. My understanding is you get 3 certificates of compliance.
Of
You
some
can
way.
use them to have 3 retail shops.
Okay.
You could use them to have a retail shop and a grow, an
I
off-site
understand.
grow.
Okay.
You could use them to have,
Okay.
you know,
A delivery
a
service?
delivery service, a retail
One
shop,
for each of the
and a
3.
grow. Then that's your 3.
Okay,
That's my
But
understanding.
not all
Okay.
3 at all 3 locations.
But you don't get 9.
I understand.
Okay.
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 But one more thing then. So, let's say you have 2 shops,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have a grow, but you want a delivery, so you can get it delivered to you. Would that be?
No,
That wouldn't work,
it's
right?
not you get it delivered to you. You are delivering. Your
You're
retail sale.
providing
You're
the
the
service.
provider.
Correct. But somehow it has to. How do you get it to your shop if you don't have the delivery certificate?
Because that's transportation. That's a
yeah.
different. That's a different.
Okay.
The delivery of
I understand.
It's to
cannabis
people's homes.
from the delivery that we're talking about is a retail delivery service.
Right, like a
Like
truck,
a
a
Right.
truck
Yeah.
bringing the food to
Right.
a restaurant.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We're not at the.
my house.
No. That's
No.
something else later.
No,
Okay.
Amazon
we're not
High.
talking
Cannabis
about.
high fresh.
We're not
Amazon
talking
High.
about.
The pot shop delivering it to somebody. Yes.
This is
that's
what
later.
this is what we're talking about. We're talking about the pot shop delivering it to someone.
Oh,
we
I
are not
didn't know that
talking
either.
about. We're not talking, and that's prohibited. You cannot have one of these other 3 licenses and also have a transportation license, which is the license
Okay,
for
so
the
3
grower.
period. So, but even though you know how I feel about the delivery of it to people's houses, but be that as it may, so you can have the delivery license to deliver it to
Mm-hmm.
people, and 2 shops.
Yes.
Okay, I get it now.
But it's interesting. You can't deliver alcohol.
No, I know, but I know.
Well, you can deliver alcohol, and you get it through Amazon or whatever, and you get it through wine clubs. It's different. So, this is a concept.
But
so
there's a whole process for doing that.
And there's going to be a whole process for
Okay.
doing that with this as well. And that's why we're talking about all these delivery requirements. And I have comments on those later
only
in this.
3. Okay, I did not
3
understand
licenses.
that.
I
I
thought
you
it
could
was part of
have.
a supply chain.
I thought you
didn't-
could have
No.
9.
No.
Well, I have my
Nine is
other
not
note
on.
about
Right.
that.
All right,
Okay.
I have a question for you. My dear friend's son is making cannabis cigarettes. They're beautiful. Okay, he's been packaging them. He's already gotten orders. What kind of license does he need?
I don't know.
It could be an edible.
If he needs to be a business.
What he's
Well,
doing
right?
is
What he's
illegal
doing
now.
is
Mixing
just
it with
presently.
tobacco?
What?
Is he
We
mixing it
can't
with
do that either.
tobacco?
That's illegal also.
It's just pure.
Yeah, because I was going to say
Yeah,
that's
that's his
a
own
totally
mixture.
different.
Okay, then he is going in. He needs a retail
He
license, and he needs
can't
to
be selling
He
them
can't.
now.
He can't be selling it on a.
He is selling.
No, I understand, but it's
Yeah.
not legal. Okay.
Okay, unless
He's
he has
clearly.
it. So there's no license.
There's no license for that right now
Yeah.
because there's only
It's not
right
Prop
now.
D. You could only have a
right now
location,
only Prop D
164.
is the compliant. Right. So that's where we are with that.
164.
There's
Okay.
a location, there's a store, 420, in Studio City that delivers. I mean, I see those
Right,
delivery
and
guys
it's not-
going back.
that's not
Well,
legal.
it's the
And
one
I
where the
just-
doctor isn't even a doctor in California.
Right.
So all of the whole entire place
Right.
is wrong.
But all of that will be sorted out.
Right.
As long as we get everybody under the
Under
tent
the tent.
with the
and
rules.
everybody has to do it, and the ones that are not compliant.
You know,
are
I
out.
have this concept of the tent,
Yeah,
and I
well,
keep excited.
I don't know how many
expressing
times
it.
you've seen already that I put enforcement, budget
Right.
for it,
Yeah,
enforcement,
that's the
enforcement,
thing.
enforcement.
That's the issue.
And that's what I wrote like
And
400
that is
times on this
why
paper when I was reading.
we need to have everybody under the tent so enforcement can work. if you have people operating outside
And
the
they can't
tent,
take the
you don't-
money to the general.
you don't get it.
That's
So,
my other
okay, so let me go back to where we were here.
Okay.
So we've talked about the type A, and we've talked about the delivery. Okay, and then so the requirements. Commercial cannabis activity application requirements. So general number 18, page 19. So page 19 and number 18 relates to the fact that applicants must provide a detailed description and plan for hiring local residents, including making an ongoing good faith effort to ensure that at least 30% of the hours of their respective workforce and contractors is what I'm going to add, and independent contractors, be performed by residents of the city of Los Angeles, of which at least 10% of their respective workforce shall be performed by transitional workers whose primary place of residence is within a 3-mile radius of the proposed businesses. And this should also include a description of how the applicant will meet all city of Los Angeles wage and labor ordinances and requirements. So they have to have all of this is in their application. They have to say how they're going to do this. So,
The
but my,
Now there's going to
30%
be a whole
is
new
this-
business for bookkeepers and accountants to work
The
on this.
30% is
I
what
see
the city's
fintech,
proposing?
financial
yeah,
technology.
that's in here. That's what they're
Why
saying.
not 90%?
Well, because this is,
What do you think they mean?
most businesses have no requirement to
Right.
hire local. We've managed
Right.
to say
I
if
know,
you're going to be in this business, you have to hire local. We want jobs in
Yeah.
LA. We
We
want
talked about it
good
at
paying
every
jobs
hearing.
in LA.
Well,
And
that's
this is
why I say
important.
why not a higher percentage than 30?
Because this was what was deemed reasonable. Anything
Yeah.
else, you're going to get,
Sued.
really a ton of kickback
Yeah.
because it's the only
It
business.
might be unconstitutional.
Yeah. So we need to find like the.
I would think any if it's going to be unconstitutional, I would think any percentage is.
Right.
It shouldn't matter on the percentage, but
Well,
Well, the federal government, though, has contracting restrictions,
so
you know, and
Well,
So
they don't have
allocation.
anything
Right.
to do with this, so.
okay, so my comment here is that on a going forward basis, how is it going to be monitored and which department and by which department and what will be the source of the funds? And I then go on to say that this could be one element of the annual compliance audit required for submission of the annual renewal process. I'm saying,
absolutely.
I want to know how you're doing it, but in any event, I think it should be one of the elements of the compliance audit. They shouldn't just say, appear with a pound of paper and it says, we have this lovely plan, and then nobody ever tests that they're actually operating in accordance with the plan. This is why the importance of compliance audit, and that's why you'll keep seeing this cropping up in my comments here.
The compliance audit is what the Department of Building and Safety is supposed to go out and check, and it's supposed to be reviewed by the planning department. So that's why that particular wording should be able to
Get in there.
be done.
Right. Item 20, page 19, the applicant must have a labor peace agreement if it has 10 or more employees. And I'm saying, okay, but that requirement should at a minimum be adjusted to reflect that this is applicable if the applicant has 10 or more full-time equivalent employees and or independent contractors. That it shouldn't just be if you have 10 people, but they're all working only 3 days a week for 4 hours
Yeah.
a day, and then the rest of the time it's staffed by the owner. That owner should not have to have a labor peace agreement. But if they have 10 full-time equivalent employees, that has to be the threshold. So I'm just trying to reconcile that. I know it's kind of a technical thing, but it's something I thought about. And I think it's
What
important.
about hours of operation?
That's in here. Their hours of operation are, it's 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Yeah.
are the hours of operation that are allowable.
So, a question, having
Like-
an
just like
independent
4 and 20,
contractor,
like 420.
Right.
having an employee
yeah.
who you
Why
call an
so
independent
early?
contractor, even though they work full-time,
Business operation.
does that
Business.
exclude you
Those
or
guys
that?
are there
No,
until
that puts
that
you in.
puts you in?
Yes.
Okay,
They're trying to
so you
be
can't
organized.
call them an independent
Yeah, but
contractor
6
and try to
a.m.
get
is
away with
That's,
normal.
that's why I'm
That's
adding
fine.
independent
Okay.
contractors in it, so they don't
Okay.
scoot by saying, oh, everybody's an independent
Right,
contractor.
right. Oh, I only have one employee.
Right,
Yeah.
and you really have 30 people there.
Exactly.
And
Even
and
though-
the thing of it is, to be a
Just
1099
disgusting,
employee, which is the
despicable.
independent contractor, you can't be doing the work on
9 to 9 would be
on that,
better.
right? You can't be working on site.
Yeah.
completely under, they're very
Rita knows
specific
more about
directions.
why-
You
For
have
this
to-
business.
No, for any
6
business.
a.m.?
So
Are
there are
liquor stores
rules
open
as to
at
when
6
you
a.m.?
can be
Liquor
considered
stores
legally considered an
There are
independent
some
contractor.
bars that are
Many
open.
people
Yeah, but
violate
they're-
it.
Yeah.
But I'm just
They're not
saying,
selling, can they
I
sell
think we need to
liquor at 6
include this
o'clock?
Absolutely,
concept
California.
and keep it straight.
Absolutely.
Target
Fine.
can't.
I'm sorry, we
But in
kind of went
California-
off our path. We need to go back.
Can you just, was there a discussion about why it's 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock?
Yes, because.
That's what Marcia
I'm
wanted to
sorry.
know. I
Okay,
don't-
so
I don't- I know it
the
was
answer
discussed,
on
I
the
just don't
reason is that
remember.
they don't want people late at night coming and
What about the 6
getting.
o'clock in the morning?
Okay, the 6 o'clock in the morning is because
Goodbye on your way to work, so you can't work.
no, is so that you can, if you have a medical need to have the product, right, then you may need to get that before you go to work to be able to utilize it when you come home, because your hours are, if you're working from 8 to 5 and you're in traffic, right, you may not be able to get there on the other end. So they tried to give a reasonable amount of time before and
ways.
after the workday, but not say it's 24 hours a day and not make it too late into the
Well,
night.
you know what I've seen
So-
on my street, where the kids that are coming from, they go to Perennial, and they come on my street, and then they go to school.
Really?
Well,
It's 8 o'clock.
I
in the
think it should be
morning.
open until 10, in my opinion.
And not open at 6 o'clock.
8 a.m. to
I
10
don't mind the
p.m.
6 a.m.
okay, well,
I really
the
don't.
knows what'll
rules that
happen
they've
with that.
proposed are 6 to 9, and I didn't want to comment on extending that. So I think, we want to protect our communities too, and so, okay, we close it at 9.
Well, it could always be something that we ask them to do also. Just like
Yeah.
every other kind of thing. If you want to
Possible.
be here, you got to have those hours. I mean,
I'm just saying, for
If anybody
any
on
other
the land
thing,
is
nothing really can start before 7. And it just
I
seems
agree.
like a place,
Really agree.
these businesses could be next to an R1
Youth center?
neighborhood on a corner, and that house that's next to it is
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
be hearing traffic at between 6 and 7 in the morning because of
yeah,
this.
you can't,
That's
you
why I
can't
think
work anywhere
But can I please just remind everyone?
from 7 o'clock in the
Cannabis
morning.
smokers are like the most mellow people on the
Oh my
planet.
God, that's not true.
Oh, please.
What we saw in Las Vegas, and there was even an article in the newspaper that I sent you. What we saw in Las Vegas, what was going on? The people are in an elevator smoking dope.
Oh, no.
So I mean,
Yes.
I have this problem with this.
I do too.
I feel
I'm
like my
very
head's
with
gonna
it.
blow off. So the door opens, 8 of them come out, and they all got arrested because they're not allowed to
Good.
smoke in public
Good.
in
Okay.
Vegas. So, but the elevator, I'm with my girlfriend who can't hardly walk, and we couldn't go in that elevator. There was no way. I would have had a headache in 2 seconds. But I just think that since nothing else can be done before 7 o'clock in the morning, why would they make this 6?
There are
But-
Okay.
bars that are open.
But
at
that's
6
not
a.m.
this point that we're on, okay?
Right.
So we're gonna go on, and that's a different point, and if you wanna
And it's
bring
not
that
on
up when we
there
get to
The
that
end, okay.
section, we can do that. So anyhow, we talked about the labor
You're on General 23.
General 23. All right, so General 23 requires them to have insurance, proof of a bond or insurance that's required by the state of California and the department, but we think that they specifically need to have product liability insurance. We think that that should be specifically called out.
Absolutely.
Who's
That's-
gonna, insurance companies are national too.
Yeah, but in Colorado, there are insurance companies that are regulating this. I mean, that are giving insurance, product liability insurance.
I don't think they're
providing that.
federally insured like the banks, so that would
They're
be
not
the-
federally insured, and the insurance companies are generally licensed by the states. It's the State Department of Insurance that regulates
Is that what
insurers.
would change with the plan from Trump about being able to cross state lines for medical insurance? I think that would be the difference. So that's right. It's
sorry.
each state has their own licensing of insurance companies. I remember after the earthquake,
I'm sorry that I'm in
we
a
got
meeting right
canceled
now,
by
and I'll have to call you
the
back.
20th century, and we could only get
I'm not
insurance from
joking.
the, from
Okay,
the
sorry,
Hartford,
bye.
which only had an office like in
Okay.
the east someplace, and the state had to grant that ability for us to be able to do that.
Okay. So I just think product liability insurance should be specifically called out in here.
And now you're on general 30.
I am on General 30. So the applicants are required to provide a community benefits agreement for consideration. And I'm just saying that the agreement should be presented to the neighborhood council in conjunction with item number 32 below, which is further down in here on page 20. I don't want them developing what they think would be community benefits and including it in their package without that going to the neighborhood council for approval and consideration.
What would community benefits be?
You know, that they will give X amount of money to, you know, cleaning the sidewalks, or they'll give
Cleaning the
X,
Colfax
you know,
footbridge, I mean, you know.
whatever
it's
it
just
is.
all money.
It's just money. It's just an allocation of money to the
Or
community.
to do it.
or providing a
responsibility.
service to do it. Like trash pickup. They will provide trash pickup along the river between here and there, whatever it is. Some form of
Something we
community
ask for.
benefit
Okay.
that the community wants. And we don't want that to be a one-sided thing. We want it to be the neighborhood council to have the right to weigh in on that.
Okay.
That's what we're saying. So, item
Are you
general
at 32?
32. Applicants are required to provide proof that the neighborhood council has been provided notice of the application and that the application was considered in a duly noticed and agendized public meeting of the board of the neighborhood council. So
Which
this,
number are you?
I'm on general 32, page 20. So it's at
Okay,
the
got it.
bottom. Okay, and so. And that notice should be at least a 45-day notice.
You said it a second
So,
time. Good.
and that's where I'm, you know, because here again, we're specifically addressing neighborhood council input. So, however, I think the applicant should be required to provide proof that the notice was given to the neighborhood council and to document its efforts to have the item put on a neighborhood council board agenda. But the applicant can't force a neighborhood council to agendize the matter. So the failure of a neighborhood council to take the opportunity to work with the applicant and participate in the process shouldn't prevent an applicant from having its application be considered complete.
They should
So,
just have proof that they tried.
I think they just
and-
have to have proof that they
Really?
tried.
Do you
Otherwise,
wanna
it's
put
not
that?
fair.
That proof should be provided that they tried
Yeah,
to
I
do
did
it?
that. I said
Oh,
that.
this is that-
Required to
the-
provide
oh, yeah,
proof.
there I see it. Okay.
Right. So if you don't have proof, then right, because there may be some neighborhood councils that are dysfunctional or that decide that they want to, like they're
Not do
passive
it.
aggressive. They just don't want to do it, and so they don't agendize it. And how is that fair to the business who's done all the other stuff that they need to do, and this is a requirement, and they can't meet that requirement?
I agree.
So they should need to be able to provide the proof that they've done what they were supposed to do.
What kind of proof?
Oh, proof of notice. So they have to have proof of mailing. They should have all of those things. Proof that they've made contact, a log of the contact. There are various kinds of proof that you can
When they
have.
put in their application, they
With
might.
the application process.
Oh.
You have to provide proof in your
The
application
neighborhood
process.
council, like Vankin and Lank, they might come in and say, well, let's have the same kind of process that we have with applications for land use. And anytime anybody goes to the department, that an extra copy has to be sent to the neighborhood council, so at least
Right.
they know about it. That's probably the way they'll want to do it.
So-
Because that is easy.
Right. But at any rate, they have to have proof that they noticed the neighborhood council. All right. So general 35 on page 20. And item 35 should be added to this page. There's no 35 existing.
Yeah.
I'm making up a 35. So an item 35 should be added stating that anyone convicted of drug trafficking or distribution of drug to minors would be banned from the cannabis industry for a period of 10 years. I
Oh, I
just
would
think
think
Not
forever.
longer.
no,
But,
because
okay.
I think everybody deserves a second chance, and if you've been made to stand out of the game for 10 years, that then you deserve your second chance. You know, that's just what I think.
I agree.
So that it's 10 years. And then on general number, also adding a number 36, item 36 should be added stating that subsequent to obtaining a certificate of compliance, anyone convicted of illegal drug trafficking or distribution of other than cannabis drugs would be banned from the cannabis industry for a period of 10 years. And why is this important? Because we don't want cannabis operators to suddenly be also trying to distribute opioids or something else, right? So
Yeah.
if you got,
Cannabis, period.
if you're doing cannabis, then you do cannabis, but you didn't get to mix something else in, and if you get caught, and you get caught, then you're out of the game for 10 years.
Well, already you
Period.
can't have
I like it.
a liquor license and get a cannabis license.
Right.
You can't have
You can't
both.
do that.
Should be.
Can't have, well, you can't have
I mean,
both of
that's the
those.
way it is.
That's
You
the way
can't
it's set
have-
up.
It's set up here in some
Right.
way.
So
I
at
didn't
any
write
rate,
anything about
But this
that.
is more like cocaine and
Whatever.
heroin and
Whatever, pills.
Yeah.
anything.
Any of that stuff.
Yeah,
I just said
that's
opioids because there's been so much of
Oh,
that.
Alan just
Yeah.
Alan had to get something that is one of those Schedule whatevers the other day for his
Schedule A.
back, and there was no way they would let me pick it up. He had to go in there. He had to show his driver's
Sign,
license. he had to listen to the person give him the spiel about the whole thing.
You have to do that with Sudafed.
This is a very, well.
Okay, all right, so we're going on
Rita?
because we still have
I
a
don't
lot of
know.
pages.
I'm gonna go just because I have to get up in 7
Okay.
hours.
I still have a
But
quorum.
you still have a quorum.
Okay.
If you didn't, I wouldn't, but.
Okay, I do have a quorum.
Do you not have a meeting tonight after us?
No, he had his
The
meeting
other day.
yesterday.
Yeah.
He got ahead of us.
And if I
Oh,
wasn't
that's
working
right.
early in the morning, I'd go to land
Right.
use, but I am, so.
Okay, so just from what you have heard, Barry, would you have any objection to this
No,
going forward?
I think it's great.
Okay,
So
all right.
detailed, Rita.
So-
I mean,
all
it's
right.
really.
Well, I know,
Yeah.
but I wanted, I mean, Barry often has a thought, and I wanted to be sure
No,
I
but it's
captured that thought
very
before I heard
thorough
that.
as what you present to us always is.
Okay, all right, well, thank
Okay.
you, Barry, good night.
All right,
And I
thanks.
appreciate you being here.
No, it's
Right,
very
bye.
important because we're sowing the
Bye,
seeds
Barry.
for huge
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
And we have to.
It has to be detailed.
It has to be detailed because you're setting precedent here for
Yeah.
and it's going to be an explosive
And
industry.
we don't know that all this is gonna go through, but we at least have to put, if we don't put it
The
forward,
thought
you don't
out
shoot the
there.
ball, you don't make the basket, so we're shooting the ball. That's what we're doing here. So delivery for the retailer, commercial cannabis activity requirements, number 3 on page 21. So this provision requires that applicants for delivery of a retail commercial cannabis certificate of compliance be considered new applicants, excluding EMMDs, which are medical marijuana dispensaries, existing medical
medical,
marijuana
yeah.
dispensaries. They're afforded Proposition D priority processing. So we recommend that the EMMDs afforded Prop M priority processing also be afforded priority processing for the delivery, which is what we've talked about earlier,
That's
as
the-
long as it's one of the 3 certificates of a compliance
Okay.
allowed per owner. So very specifically, that has to be one of your 3 then if you want to do that. Okay, then indoor cultivation of commercial cannabis requirements, number 3 on page 22. This section should be expanded to require submission of an energy efficiency plan. It says you have to do all these things, but I think it
Everybody
relates
else
to the
has to
power,
do it.
but we're just saying you should have the energy efficiency plan. Then commercial cannabis activity operational requirements, general number 4 on page 24. So this section should be expanded to include the requirement that the badge include the ID number for the individual's proof of training. So there should be training that's required, and the ID number that says you took that training should be on your badge,
Just like liquor.
right? So we're just
I
asking
mean,
for
a
that.
physical badge. That
Yeah,
someone's
they
gonna-
have to have a physical badge.
The salespeople there.
Yeah, yeah, that's part of the rules.
Okay, with an ID number, because you know
Yeah.
when you go to the nail salon, to your hair salon, well, you're in the beauty business too, right? You have a certificate that you have
Right.
to show.
Your
license.
license.
Yeah, the
Well,
license.
but the license, yes. your
But these are for
license.
every individual that's in there. So every individual that's in there who's
Not just
an
the owner.
employee, not just the owner, has to have
So you know who's
You're
the
trained, have-
patron
yeah.
and
What
who's
kind
the
of training?
person.
whatever training they're requiring for.
Okay.
They need to show that they had these
Okay.
trainings.
You know, if you sell liquor, you
have to have
a
specific
training
trainings,
on
like
how to
how to-
recognize,
yeah.
But
how to
what
recognize
about-
someone who's drunk.
Right.
Okay.
And
and
cleaner.
these are
Oh,
all
right.
the
They're
fake
They're
IDs,
very
all that stuff.
specific.
Okay. Oh, and the fake
specific
IDs, right,
training.
yeah.
Yeah, and we have a thing on the IDs. We're gonna that's
This
in
is
here too.
is this 21 and older?
Yes, and
Except
only
for
if
the
you're medical,
medical.
and then you can't come
Are
into
you
the shop
freezing?
unless you're 18.
Yeah.
Yes.
Could I try to fix the air?
Yes, please.
Okay.
cold.
Good luck.
But what about, so I've heard
Don't
that
forget, Rita, I
there
know
are
how to do
people who sit in the back and just clip. Are they gonna be required?
Everybody
Everyone has
to have
an
training.
ID. Just like
Right.
here or
Wait, so what did you say about minors that need it medicinally?
Okay, minors who meet it medicinally can come into the shop if they are 18 or over. If they are under 18, even if it's for medical use, they have to be accompanied by an adult,
Okay.
the guardian. So,
Is that in the,
yep, that's in the
Thing.
regs. That's not anything we need
Right,
to add. Those
right.
are the rules. Okay, or the proposed rules. All right, so then cannabis activity operational requirements, general page 424. That section, so, that's
You're
the one I just
under
did, proof of
here,
training. I'm sorry,
number
general
13.
7. Yeah. So
7?
general number 7, which starts on page 24 and goes over onto 25. The last sentence of that section should be revised to add that the videos that they're requiring to be made available to police also be made available to the Office of Finance and to anyone conducting an annual compliance audit. That's our comment is it's not just police, but they have to give those videos to the finance and they have to give those videos to the compliance auditors.
What kind of videos though? Because there are lots of different times. There's continuous loops, 20 second
No, they're
loops.
required
It's
to
a
have
specific
specific
requirement.
video taping, and it has to be 24/7 taping.
Okay.
And they have to retain these tapes for a specific number of days. I don't remember if it was 30 or what it is. So all of this is required, and I am saying that they need
Inside
to
and
make
out.
those tapes available, not only to police, which is what they've provided in here, but also to anyone from the Office of Finance, because, and it should be in the compliance audit, because you should be able to see the level of activity. Like if you are doing medical and not, and retail and non-medical, so medical and recreational, and you're having, different taxation potentially for those two things, then if you see the video, you can kind of see who, if you've got those two areas segregated, who is doing what and what volume is happening at what. It's should be part of the compliance audit,
You
right?
can get a
It's the-
sense for
you
how
can
much
get a
money
sense for
they're
what's
reporting
being
now. Don't forget, it's
regenerated.
going to be hard.
Yeah, it is.
right. So
Very hard
this
to
is going to
report the money.
Yeah.
well, not if you get it.
If it's right. No.
done
I mean,
properly.
without this kind of
right.
stuff.
So at any rate,
She's an auditor,
So I think that way.
I know,
Well,
I
no,
know.
that's good. Now, if you go into, I've never bought cannabis, or when you go in, I know you have to pay cash. Do you get a receipt?
Yes.
Okay, you got a receipt now.
Yes.
All right.
You do.
Is there taxation on it now?
Yes.
What is it?
It's the standard taxation.
8.25?
Yeah, you
Right.
just don't know for
If
sure
you're
how
paying
much
it.
of cash is going into somebody's pocket because there's no way to audit it.
Right.
And they
Right.
don't have an audit process now.
Right.
It's you send it in with your business registration, how much you say that you
Right.
do.
Okay. So let's keep going. So
And don't forget, it's not really a business right now.
it's
an immunity
It's an immunity situation.
thing that's
So-
very, very hard to.
General 13 on
Understand.
page 26. So this provision prohibits off-site signs. I want them to add language to the item to specifically prohibit billboard and bus fence
Absolutely.
advertisement
Absolutely.
of any type in the city of Los Angeles.
Yes.
Even though it says off-site sign,
Yeah.
that what the way
doesn't-
they've defined it, you could have a billboard on top of your space,
Just like that guy.
like
at
that guy over
Cahondo,
there
that
has.
giant
Yes.
billboard.
And that I think that should not be allowed. So he should be allowed
Or by the
signage
workbook,
and off
workbook
on site.
factory with that,
Yes.
that woman with the boobs.
Right.
And the
Yes.
wearing
Well,
We
those
gotta
are
take
all
that down.
illegal billboards,
Okay,
but we
but
can't
at
do
any
anything
rate.
about it. We've
So-
tried for years.
I know,
years.
I'm sorry. Okay, so additionally, all the next concept is that all advertising, if they're advertising in a periodical, like liquor advertises in periodicals, so all advertising must include the state license number and the City of Los Angeles certificate of compliance number
Okay.
of the business. I think,
Yeah.
that way you can track them and you know who's doing it. So if you open a periodical and there's no such certificate of compliance number on there, then bingo, over to enforcement, and enforcement can get out there and shut them down. So that's what needs to happen. And that's why I think it's important to have that. Okay, General 15 on page 26. This provision requires annual renewal of the business certificate of compliance. And the provision should be expanded to include a requirement that the renewal application include proof that the department has audited the inventory and financial records of the businesses, and include proof of payment of all taxes. So here I am again with my compliance audit. I know, like a little broken record, but I think we have to put it in everywhere that we think it could be
Yes.
applicable. So I'm putting it in
Yes.
there. Retailer compliance, retailer commercial cannabis activity number 1 on page 31. That item should be expanded to require electronic age verification for every transaction, just like they have for liquor. All right?
Absolutely.
So that needs to be in here.
Well, how do you electronic age verification?
Oh, because it's
You
a little
run the
machine
driver's
and you
license?
swipe the license. As she said.
They do?
Yeah.
I thought that you look at a license and you.
Well, not anymore.
Electronic now.
What
So,
about-
like Ralph's?
I-
Ralph goes
like
right.
Trader Joe's doesn't do that.
Right.
I've seen them hand it.
But they're not all that's not necessarily required for liquor.
But it's available.
But it is available.
Okay.
We're saying
It's
required,
required,
for
okay.
this. This is another level of protection
Okay.
for our stakeholders, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so we want every protection we can get.
Is it for people that don't have driver's licenses? What
Then
other-
they would use we
Yeah.
have
Valid
valid
ID.
California ID,
We have an ID. It's just
Right.
like a driver's license.
right? It's just not.
It just says may not
Yeah.
drive on the top.
So Okay, retailer commercial cannabis activity, number 17 on 33. That section should be revised to require training within 3 months, not 6 months. I think
Yes.
6 months is just too long to let them get the training. And additionally, all owners and employees operating in any cannabis-related business should be required to have such training, not just those involved in the retail commercial cannabis activity. And that training should be required every 24 months, just like they
'Cause
require
things
it
change.
for,
Just
things
like
change.
liquor.
So just like liquor, again, bringing the analysis. All right,
Yeah.
retail commercial cannabis activity number 19 on page 33. That provision allows only one door to be used for patron access. So we recommend that the applicants be allowed to have 2 doors for patron access, and that would allow for medical and recreational patrons to have distinct access to appropriate retail environments. So that's my recommendation. I didn't think
So the
everybody should.
the
the
medical
reason
wouldn't be
behind that?
taxed, so then you can see the separate
That's my
people
point,
coming
yeah.
in. Because the medical
Say
isn't
that again?
taxed. The medical
isn't
marijuana
taxed.
isn't taxed.
Right.
It's a prescription.
Right.
I mean,
Oh.
well, that's not what it's called, but I mean, close enough.
Right.
You know, by my explaining it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, the other is taxed because
It's a
It's a
recreational.
recreational.
Right.
Right.
It's like cigarette.
Right.
Right.
now the
It's tax.
feds,
Fun
the
always
feds
costs so much
determine.
more.
Yeah, the feds tax the liquor bottles, so that's
Right.
why when you buy liquor, it's not taxed. But this isn't going to be done by the feds, so it has to be done
Right.
at the local level.
Okay. So at any rate, there we have.
That's why
that
they
one.
bootlegged it.
All right. So delivery for retailer commercial cannabis activities. So we're concerned that the requirements of this section would be hard to enforce. They just have all these things, but they're not specific. So I'm saying specific provisions should be added to this section, identifying the department that will be responsible for enforcement of the requirements and setting forth specifically how the compliance is going to be monitored.
Yes.
All right.
That's true for
Because
everything.
yeah, but this specifically with delivery, I mean, you have to think, how are you monitoring this when it's in a car, when it's, blah,
Why
blah,
would
right?
you even
So,
have it? I mean, I just wouldn't even have it.
What?
I don't think
Delivery.
delivery.
Oh
Well,
my God!
it is.
No. It's
everything
so
is,
huge.
in this day and age of Uber, that's not going to go away. So
Yeah.
we have to find a way to regulate it. So number 2 on page 34, that item should be expanded to state that only authorized employees of the delivery company can be in the delivery vehicle during a delivery. So it's like you can't stop and pick up some hitchhiker on the road if you're doing a delivery,
Or do Uber
right?
pool.
Or decide that your kid needs a ride to school, and so you're taking them at the same time. Or be an Uber. No Uber, no gummies, none of that in the vehicle. Okay, so in number 3 on page 34, the second sentence of this item should be deleted so that delivery services aren't restricted to the city of Los Angeles boundaries. I think if there's a neighboring city that has
Like Burbank.
that's allowed cannabis, right? Has that they should be the delivery. Why are we restricting our
As long-
businesses
well-
to only LA?
Okay, so
I
shouldn't
think
we
just
put
take it
here
out.
as long as cannabis is legal in that city?
I didn't want to put that in. I just thought I just thought we'd just because then you've had another thing of how are you going to monitor that, right? I mean,
Well, you're going to hope that the person
Yeah.
who had to go through hell and pay all this money to get their license, that they
wouldn't
do
want
it
to
right.
just blow it. But at any rate, I just think that it shouldn't be restricted to the city of Los Angeles boundaries. So
Can they
I put
charge
that in.
delivery charges?
Well, there is that there would have to be a delivery service fee. There'd be a fee for that, right?
That's up
Well,
to the business.
It's
I
part
mean,
of,
you
it's up
can't-
to the business.
You can say it's
Is
complimentary.
that taxable?
Well, no, because
No.
if you are a delivery service and that's all you're doing, of course you're going to charge a delivery fee.
Well, but how
it's
do you
like
get
Uber
the drug?
Eats.
How do you get the cannabis if you're just a delivery service?
Okay, because the delivery
You
service is
go-
only responsible for going and picking up the product from somewhere and delivering it
Oh.
at the other end.
Oh, you mean that
They
kind
don't
of thing.
take
Okay.
title during the process.
Okay, well, I just
Right.
wasn't thinking of
Okay,
it being that.
so, but that's-
I mean, because what we are talking about at 420, they have a car there.
Yeah,
That they
that's-
deliver
yeah,
it
I know,
with
but
from
that's
them.
not legal.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, I know.
right.
Okay, but it would be if
Yeah,
they
they
had
just sit
one of the
there.
3 licenses.
Yes,
Okay.
right.
They're just waiting on a call, so they
Yes.
just.
Oh, it's just-
it's their own car, and they're just waiting. But that thing just zips in and out,
Yeah.
in
Oh,
and
yeah.
out, in and out.
And they
in
take
and
the
out,
parking
in and
place up right in
Okay.
front of the
out.
place.
Stop!
Everyone
Stop!
knows
Stop!
it.
Stop!
Well, so everyone knows it's there, it's available.
Okay,
And then, of course, they
item
have the
number
guy throwing
9.
the thing.
Okay, item number 9 on page 35. This item should be expanded to indicate that no delivery employee should be under the influence of any substance while working, right? Because what the item says is that you can't consume the cannabis, right, when you're doing the delivery, which is like, yeah, but you should just not be under the influence of anything. Never mind that you didn't consume it during the delivery. You shouldn't have consumed it before the delivery or anything else that would cause you to be under the influence. So I just think that should be.
Okay, I have to say something else about that. So they're not allowed to smoke in the retail shop.
We're not
correct?
talking about that. We're talking about delivery. Got
I
to
know
stay on
that,
point.
this has something to do with it. If you're allowed to smoke in the premises and you go in there, then you're
not
under
allowed.
the influence.
You're not allowed to smoke in the
I
premises.
know that, but that's what they do now.
But that's not what's going to be allowed under this. So we
Okay.
can't. And we have to stay with what we're reviewing. So that's
Okay.
what we're doing here. All right. So I'm just
10.
saying, don't be under the influence of any substance, and never mind doing it right before.
Just don't do it.
Yeah. So page number 10 on page 35, the item should be expanded to indicate that all cannabis products to be delivered, and this is really, really, really important. This item has to be expanded to indicate that all cannabis products to be delivered must be pre-ordered, packaged for sale, labeled, and placed in exit packaging prior to being dispatched for delivery. No dispensing of cannabis can be done from a vehicle, and it should not be visible in the vehicle during delivery.
No.
Okay?
Yeah,
So
that's perfect.
that's just like, if you're going to use a delivery service, so here's the Uber Eats concept, right? The Uber Eats guy goes to the restaurant, picks up the food, and goes and gives it to them. He didn't own the food during this process, right? The food was already paid for. Okay?
Yeah, it's already
so this
stapled,
is
the
the same
package is
thing.
already
We're
stapled.
saying you send this product out with this delivery service, already prepackaged, pre-ordered, prepaid for, bingo, and off it goes. And it's not to be visible during the transportation process. So that's what we're saying there. All right.
36.
So I want to go on page 36, but I want to go to item 14 because that's important. And item 14 should be, which doesn't exist there. So where I'm saying item 14 should be added, and that requires electronic age verification prior to completing the delivery. So when this Uber Eats effective guy, right, who's now delivering cannabis, comes to the door, he can just give it to the person without being sure that they're over 21.
But
Right.
that's the person.
Right.
How's
so
he
they
gonna
have
do
to
that electronic thing? You can do
electronic-
that
because
on the
just
run?
like just
Oh,
like
on
you
that
have
thing that you
Square,
slide in your
that's
car.
right.
Okay.
So
Just like they do at the club,
Right.
they have those little machines.
right, there's whatever
How
there.
Alan uses the charge cards on his.
So
yeah.
there will
really?
be
On his
there
phone,
should be we're just saying you've got to verify the age of the person. You can't
Just
like
hand it to the person
hand it-
standing
well
at the
because
door.
they look old enough doesn't mean they get to
Right.
just have it.
Well, it should be delivered to the person.
Yes, but they could have called up and said whatever,
Yeah.
and how here comes the delivery guy. But somebody has to get the proof
Yeah.
at the other end.
So here I am, I order something, I run out to do my own errand, I leave my son who's underage.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
not
and they
getting
deliver,
it.
so
No.
he's not getting it.
That's right. You want that stuff, you sit
gotta
home.
stay home.
That's right.
Or pick it up yourself.
Send
Yeah.
your son to do the errand.
Right.
Not do.
So you have to, not only do you have to show ID,
electronic.
But it has to be
I
old
want
enough.
electronic
Okay.
delivery.
The whole 9
verification
yards,
of age.
even when you go in
Right.
to do it.
okay.
So it's like just the fact that you're getting it from home doesn't get you away from the having to prove.
Who you are.
Because you would have to prove that if you were
If
But
you
the
in
were
thing
person.
is, it kind of like deputizes that driver.
Yes, it does.
And I mean,
And if he can't deliver it because of that, then he
Then he
needs to
shouldn't
take
be
it
in
back
that
to the
business.
shop. He needs to take it back to the shop because he cannot complete his delivery.
Right, and then it gets picked up or somebody else comes later.
Right. Well, no, there are rules for disposal on that, and so that's a whole other set of
Go
things.
back to
But-
number 12, because it's on 35 and 36, and you changed that on your other one.
I have it. The last sentence of this item
No,
should
no,
be
no, number
struck.
12.
Number 12.
It's on number 12 starts on page 35 is
I'm
what
sorry,
I'm saying.
that's what you're telling me. I get it.
Okay, so the
35
last sentence
slash
should
Yeah,
be
but the
36.
last
struck.
sentence is on page 36.
I know.
Right, but the item 12, her point is that the item 12 is.
Furthermore, no business
starts
is
on the prior
authorized to
page.
provide delivery
Okay,
service.
I'll fix it. Okay, all right, so now we're on distributor of commercial cannabis activity requirements, number 9 on page 42. So this item prohibits the storage or distribution of non-medical cannabis, i.e. recreational cannabis, on a premises approved for the distribution of medical cannabis. And I'm saying that the distribution of medical and non-medical cannabis should be allowed from the same premises as long as the retail spaces are distinct. I mean, you have to
Why
have
there should be
distinct-
two doors.
Yeah,
And why there should be two cameras.
right, you can have, but,
Because one's taxed, one isn't, and one
And
you
that's
have to have a different kind
So-
of registration than just yourself.
But 2 doors, I was gonna ask this on the 2 doors thing. 2 doors doesn't mean that they're going into 2 different spaces.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, so they're
But
entering
did you-
distinct spaces.
But you didn't
Yes,
say
and
that.
I did. What I said was so that they enter the appropriate environment, the retail environment, and that's what I meant by that.
Okay.
You know what, I don't think that's gonna fly because, I think that's gonna be shot down, because when people rent space, some of these places are gonna be quite small, there's not gonna be room for 2 doors.
Or the
Well,
2
then they can't
doors.
do
Then they
both.
can't do both, right? I'm just, you need
There's
to
plenty of
have
spaces
the
around.
distinct environments.
The only way,
If you don't have
because it's
distinct
a cash business,
environments,
basically, you gotta do something.
it
But
has to be
distinct environment could still be interpreted to mean one
2
big
different
room.
counters.
Oh, just over there is that one, and over here is this one. But we're
Well, you
all in
wanna-
one
wanna
room.
Put something more specific.
Do you mean exterior doors or
Yes,
interior
to
doors?
get
in.
entry
Exterior.
portals, entry portals.
And then you're gonna have to say like for fun and for fun and for real.
No, medical and nothing on the other door.
You would
the
just put
implication-
medical only on one door and leave the other door silent. I
But the
don't know.
implication is that there's a wall between them.
Right, 2 distinct spaces.
But
it doesn't
that's
say
not
that.
how I interpreted that.
I understand
I didn't
what you're
mention that
saying.
in the door thing.
Okay, so we need to go back to the door thing. Where was that? Can someone help me find the door
Yes.
thing? Because we need to incorporate that concept, Anne Marie. Where are my doors? Doors are somewhere. This is so detailed, you can't find anything.
is very
It's
detailed.
hard, I know. It's before the,
I think it's on the page where Proposition M is the top thing.
Is this one of the ones that you added? That you added a 35?
But it was still written down.
Was it still written down?
yeah, it's in
I
here.
should have brought it up when we were talking.
35
Yeah.
is the drug traffickers.
No, she added 35. There was
Yeah.
34, and she said we're gonna add a 35.
No, but that's
Here.
in, oh, you found it? Good.
Oh, here it is. It's on the same page.
This,
What page?
The second
page
one
we're
from
on?
the top.
Yeah. Second from the top. Is that what you just said?
Yes, the provision allows for only one door.
Right.
We could act 2 doors. It's not for medical and recreational patients to have distinct access to the appropriate retail environment. Or, so, if you don't want to say appropriate retail environment, to,
Separate.
2 doors for patron access to 2.
the applicant be allowed to have 2
What-
doors for
what page
patron
is this?
access.
Show me.
This
Right
would
next to the
allow
last
for
one.
medical and recreational patients to have
Second
distinct
one from the top.
action
We were on
to-
the page. We're still on that page.
to the
No, I'm not.
You're not, no, you're looking at the wrong thing, it's this.
retail
The applicant be allowed to have 2
You were
doors.
just on that
to
page.
exclusive
I got two big sheets of paper here.
exclusive
That's
retail
Separate spaces.
to
There
exclusive
you go.
to separate
Instead of appropriate retail
to
environment,
separate
separate space.
exclusive
Okay.
spaces.
It's just space.
No, it's separate exclusive retail areas. No, I want to say separate and distinct retail areas. Okay.
And also, you say we recommend that applicants be allowed to have 2 doors. You don't want to say allowed.
Yeah.
You
You
want it
want 'em to
required.
have.
Yeah.
To be
We not,
Required.
We recommend that
Applicants
applicants
be
be
required
required
to have.
to have 2 doors for patron access, 1 for
yeah,
each.
but then I have to say 2 doors for patron access if medical and recreational
What if I'm having it delivered?
recreational
I don't even come to
medical
this
and recreational
storefront.
say if
access
both-
to the
be
separate
required to
and
have separate
distinct retail
doors
areas.
leading into separate spaces. No?
And that the applicant
This is gonna
be
go through a lot of
required to
lawsuits.
have
Yeah. Required to have
And a lot
two
of,
separate
Well, the
doors for
people
patron
that-
access
a
to
lot of breaking the
Students-
law until.
Of course,
For
the people
patron
who have sued in the
access.
past, they've worked on this. So
In
it
non-contiguous
is possible
spaces.
that in
No,
the end,
because
they
a
might
contiguous.
agree to
Oh,
it.
yeah, you're right, you're right.
Contiguous,
Contiguous.
that's exactly
Right.
what it would be,
It would,
contiguous
right,
space.
but they need to have a
I
wall
understand
between
it.
them.
Right.
How would you
Recommend
say
that
that?
the applicant
It's
be
onerous to
required
have the two exterior
have
doors. I would treat it more like
two doors.
a
I would have two
pediatrician.
different counters.
I would
I think
treat it
it
more
has
like a
to have
pediatrician's
allowed.
office where you have the sick
Recommend that
waiting
applicants
room
be
and the
allowed to
waiting
have
room.
two
All the
doors for
meetings-
patron
all the
access.
meetings
if
You're not
medical.
requiring
Two
it?
in there.
No,
Rita's been to the-
no, just
they-
allow, because you might come into a
felt that
general waiting room and then go into
distinction
separate
between them. I
rooms
don't even
within
think
the
you should have
facility.
medical and recreational in the
Do you
same
understand?
one.
Which is why I'm
Oh,
saying
so they're
it's
not
allowed.
outside
do.
portals.
But
It
nobody
could be
wanted
one
to
door
make that
in and then
restriction.
two internal
But
doors.
That's right, or
In
two
order
internal
to keep
rooms,
track
right?
of
This
what's
room is
going
where we
on.
sell this,
I
this
see,
room is
I
where
see,
we
I
have
see.
that.
Have
But I'm
audience,
saying
and
they,
there has to
should-
be a
they,
way
but
to
they've
do it
said in the
because you
rules, you
don't
can
know
only
what
have
they're
one
doing with the
door.
money.
I would
And I'm
separate
saying,
them out
but if you
completely. I
have two
wouldn't
distinct
combine them. It's
I know.
it's much easier.
areas that you want to
It's much
access
cleaner.
only from the
It's
exterior,
easier to
they should be
regulate.
allowed to do that.
Rita.
Oh, right.
I think
Why-
it's
Do you
pretty
understand?
separate.
But not required. I thought you meant required.
No,
Okay.
I had allowed, someone said required, I'm going back to allowed because I think that's what the right thing is, but I still haven't got the
Okay.
language
Rita,
straight.
can you say that?
Tell her why it ended up being that you could have a license for medical and a license
Let
for
her
recreation.
finish this thought first.
Well, but this thought
Okay, go ahead.
impacts that.
Just
I mean,
say what you wanna say.
I don't know if you agree with me.
Yeah.
We think that you
Two
shouldn't
separate
be able
spaces.
to sell both in the same retail
in the same
environment.
spot. Wasn't there a specific reason that was discussed
There
constantly?
were discussions about that, but I don't see why. I think if you've gone through the process, then you should be allowed to sell your product. And you should be allowed to sell your product to medical as well as recreational people, as long as the environments are distinct. i.e., there's a different room. Medical happens here, recreational
And
happens
of course,
here.
medical, you can be 18. I think that's
Right.
the youngest.
And-
it can be, you can have a registration, but I don't know
What
how they're
about
going to handle that.
recreation?
Recreation's 21.
21.
We recommend that.
How about, we recommend the applicants be allowed to have two doors for patron access, one each leading to two separate spaces.
I would handle it differently. I would try it out
Is that
for a
what
couple
you're trying
years
to
this
say?
way and then amend it.
Well,
as
that's
you get some,
it may happen.
as it,
One.
it's a work in progress.
This provision allows.
Well,
I mean, we'll have
recommend
with
that
the
the applicant be
prohibition.
allowed to have
we're
two
the
doors
la-
for
we're-
patron
our
access.
city's the last to ever do
This would
anything,
allow
so this is
for
amazing that
medical-
it's coming out before everyone else on earth.
And
You know
recreational
I'm from Michigan.
patients.
I know.
Okay.
Patrons to have
Access to-
distinct
They're
access
back in
to.
1940.
This is why I said to the appropriate retail environment. To separate and distinct.
They don't-
Retail environment.
Retail
There's a law there
environments.
against same-sex adoption of children to make it illegal in the state of Michigan.
Okay, I got it. So,
But this city is unique, and the city looks to other places before we ever start writing anything for us.
But that's not a
And-
bad idea.
No, because no place is like here. There's no place that has 456 square miles to try to figure out what to do. No place. You know, all those people in
London.
New York are this
Yeah, I
big.
know.
Well, London isn't that big either because all those places all around. So when you look at Denver on what to
Yeah, no,
do,
it's-
where there's 800,000 people and we have 4 million,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
Yeah.
it always has driven me nuts. And then they try to implement the stuff that we can't do.
all right, I
The
We have to have
enforcement.
all right, let's go
20,000
back to the
laws
other.
to do that.
I know, but that's my other committee.
We're at the bottom of the page.
Constant
The bottom,
frustration.
on inspections, are we on
20,000
inspections?
cops. You know, there are 33,000 cops. in
Right.
New York
Or the
City.
one above it.
Just in the
And
city.
private storage.
Well, we have-
Right, that's the one we had
Not
just
even
done,
10.
and then we went
Not
back
even
to the
10.
other because that was your concept, and we went back to, so inspections.
Yeah, it's.
All right, we're
so-
coming back together, guys. So
protect us
inspections.
alone.
This section describes general inspections which are allowed. The section should be revised to specifically identify the department required for each type of inspection and should provide that a certificate of inspection indicating that the business is in compliance with the requirement should be part of the annual renewal process. So I'm again on my compliance audit thing, and that's stuck in there.
Okay.
The
They're gonna have
last
to
one,
hire Rita to do it.
no, they're just gonna have to
New business for her.
Are you kidding? A
about
baby
this.
Well, that's what
We're
she's
gonna invest in it.
Enforcement.
Is that called like?
Enforcement. So
Look at this little teeny thing. Did you see how many
Yeah.
times I wrote enforcement? So look at this little teeny thing she has here.
all right, but this section should be expanded to state the manner in which violations will be identified that will then result in enforcement actions. Will the system of enforcement be complaint-based? We recommend that the
Oh, here, I made a whole there's another mistake.
the
Rita.
type of enforcement be in addition to violations. Type of enforcement be in addition to violations that are discovered if requirements are expanded to include the annual audit certifications recommended herein.
We
So,
recommend.
There we go.
Okay, and enforcement, you have an extra S there.
I don't understand.
Help me.
No, I first
Where
of
is
all, I
that?
don't even
Wait,
understand
okay,
this
wait a
whole
minute. Let me just
paragraph.
help me find the typo. Oh, in the title. Thank
Yes.
you.
Oh.
Okay, fine.
I guess
All right, so
I was burnt out when I looked at that page.
all right, so what if there's a whole section? There's a little section
Right.
on enforcement. Right, here we go. This is the thing.
Page
right?
7.
So it is on
47.
page 47.
The little section.
You remember that 47?
No, it's right
Oh,
here.
it's on my. I've given the page
Still
number.
you remember.
Because no
Okay.
one would be able to find what the heck
No,
I'm talking about.
of
If I
course
didn't say
not.
the page number, the paragraph
No.
number, the item number,
No,
you'd
you're
just
very
go like,
organized. Much
So
appreciated.
you have to know where you're looking at. So on page 47, it starts the whole blah, blah, blah about enforcement.
Right.
And that goes for the next 3 pages. All right? So notwithstanding any of the provisions, so the enforcement talks about notwithstanding any of the other provisions of the law, the department may take administrative action at any time within 5 years after the department discovers or with reasonable diligence should have discovered any violation of the certificate of compliance requirements of the commission. And if any action of the department does not preclude the California and the CUPA program local agency from taking their own enforcement action. All right.
Wait. I'm sorry, but it doesn't say department. You said commission, so it goes to something different than the department?
Okay, the department, the commission, there's a commission, and then there's a department.
Okay.
All right, so there are 2 things.
Uh-huh.
All right.
But this stuff goes to the commission, not the department?
No,
Okay.
it goes, the provision of the law, the department may take the action, all right, based upon the certificate of requirements of the commission. It's the commission's requirements, it's the
So
department
it's like
doing the
bonk
stuff.
and
They're
done-
doing the
and done?
administrative
Right.
action.
Yes.
Right, so, at any rate, okay,
Okay.
so let's just stay on the point for a minute. So, the department's going to use the violation classes and applicable amounts as follows for the purpose of this section. So they have designated what these violation classes are. They're serious, they're moderate, they're minor.
Okay,
And then
okay.
there's gonna be this table that they come up with, which is gonna establish the level of severity
Yeah.
of every particular violation, okay? And the department's gonna issue a notice of the violation. And then, after they issue the notice of the violation, there's then there are provisions designed to prevent destruction of evidence, and there's a whole bunch of stuff on that. And then, but the business may then appeal the notice of violation for minor or moderate violations, and you can ask for a hearing. And it says all what you're allowed to do, all right? And what the request has to include in it if you're making such a request.
Got it.
And the department then schedules a hearing within 30 days. And the administrative hearings are conducted as follows, and they talk about how they do that, and that the department can take an action for any violation noted as serious at the discretion of the department. If the business holds multiple certificates of compliance, the department may simultaneously revoke, suspend, or impose conditions upon some or all of the
And they get to remain
certificates.
open.
Held by the business based on the violations noted. And it goes on, right? And then it says about how the notice has to be given to the applicant or business of the department's intent to hold the hearing, blah, blah, all right? And then it says all of that about enforcement. But nowhere in my mind did it state how the manner in which the violations are going to be identified. It just says, okay, if there's a violation, I'm saying, how are you going to
Where does the violation come from?
that
Are there
that there's
people
a
who are
violation?
going to be going out to check on
If
violations?
there's a compliance audit, there will be part of my plan under the tent and get audited. It's concept. Okay, so that's what I'm saying here.
Right.
I'm swinging back around to that, saying, it doesn't say to me the manner in which you're going to
That's right.
identify
How are
the
you gonna do it?
violations for enforcement actions. So will the system of enforcement be complaint-based, or are you just gonna find this out because somebody calls and says, hey, this happened?
Well,
Or
we've
what are
already
you
said
doing?
We don't think it should be that way.
So
Right.
we recommend that the type of enforcement be in addition to the violations that are discovered if, we recommend that the type of, that type of enforcement be
But you know what,
in addition to the
complaint-based is
violation.
very important.
Right, I
Well,
know.
that's all right, too,
I
but it
know.
can't be
but-
the only.
Right,
And not-
so
not
I'm
the
just
only
saying
one.
that it's not the, it's, we recommend that, no, it is the, sorry.
Yeah, that the type
We
of
recommend that the
enforcement.
type of enforcement not just be limited to complaint-based violations, but also that are discovered, right? That it's be expanded to include violations that are found in an annual compliance
Yeah,
audit.
tax
for the
evasion,
right.
Well,
selling
you
faulty
have now, you have
product,
a different wording here, though, annual
Yeah.
audit certificate.
profit skimming,
certifications.
selling
Right,
other
And plus, I
things.
think you need to add some of those words that you just said, that were not on
The
here.
biggest thing's gonna be tax.
Yeah, when you
Because
said it was better than
it was
just
better
as
than
written.
what
In a
this
very
is.
big way.
Yeah, very
But
big
it's
one.
on the tape,
Yeah.
so it's not like you can't hear it back.
Recommend that the
Right, but I don't know how to get it
Well,
on
he's
that.
right outside there.
We recommend that
Who?
the type of enforcement be in addition.
Not be just,
What?
That the type of
It's right out there when I
enforcement.
went to
You
turn
said
it
Okay,
not-
you guys, we recommend that the type of enforcement,
Be in addition to,
no, that the type of enforcement not be limited to.
but that's what you
Yeah,
said, not be
complaint-
limited
not
to
be-
complaint-based.
yeah,
To,
complaint-based discoveries,
complaint-based, violations.
violations.
But,
That are discovered, complaint-based violations.
but in addition, but
Violations.
additionally, violations that are discovered, as you have here,
But
picking up on what you
additionally-
wrote. But additionally, comma, then picking up violations that are discovered,
Additionally, violations,
That are
yes,
discovered
yes,
if
right here.
the,
It goes here. And
violations
additionally,
discovered-
violations that
what did you say?
are discovered if the requirements are expanded to include the annual audit certifications we recommended herein.
But-
That are
that's-
discovered during the annual audit certifications?
But that's not what you called it. You've called it something else.
I talked about the annual compliance audit.
Certificate of, the annual compliance, well, isn't that what
Included
this
in
is?
the
annual audit certification.
Certificate,
Annual compliance audits.
right. Not audit
Audits.
certificate.
Yeah, annual compliance.
We
audit.
recommend
Audits.
herein, which is
Recommended
exactly what you
herein.
said.
Okay,
Yes.
got it. Okay, that's good. It's good. We've cleaned that up. Okay, got it. And that, my friends, takes us through the end
Wow.
of this process.
Job well done.
That was intense.
I know.
And,
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to do these things. I know. But, and I know it's boring and detailed.
Page 3.
But
Thank you.
you're setting the stage for the
You can have
future.
this one.
Yeah.
One, page 2.
What should I tell my friend's son?
Compliance types.
That he's,
Give it a
he
compliance
get arrested
types.
and go to jail for a very long
Prop
time.
M.
Amps.
P-L-I-A.
Remember when he had to
C.
sell cannabis, that
N.
he's like he's just a drug
C.
dealer
Okay.
without having a.
Right. Okay.
I
He
saw
needs to look
others,
up
I
Prop
just,
D
I didn't know
right
we
now.
wanted them up from this, but
That's what's
it's not a
enforced.
big deal.
Right.
Prop
Prop D is what exists, but it's going away
Yeah,
shortly.
but she's asking about what her,
Right.
her friend's son could
Presently,
do.
there's nothing that he can do to be
Yeah,
legal.
that's right.
Because the Prop D was a certain number of retail establishments were granted limited immunity because they were compliant with when Prop D came out. No one
Nobody can,
after that can access that. It's over and it's done with. We have a lot of illegal operators.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
But
give you
they're
one
all-
of Alan's business cards, because if he
they're
gets
all
caught, he's
illegal
gonna need a criminal
operators.
attorney.
Right? So that's what
I probably won't say anything to her.
Right. So that's what's taking place now. But once this goes into effect, then,
Then
he
he
can apply
How old
under
is he?
one of these things. And I would
30?
say
30?
right. So probably he wants to apply for a
I would-
retail
I would think
license.
so.
Right.
But right now,
and so,
he's just a drug dealer.
right. And that he should immediately start reviewing the rules, right? And the regulations. So that's what he should start doing right away, because there are specific things that are going to be required for the application process. And he won't be in the first group that gets to apply, right? But he'll be in the next group. and so, anyway.
He has venture backers behind him.
Well.
Yeah, well,
They'll all be
it
arrested
doesn't change the
get
facts.
caught.
All right, we have to stay with this. Okay,
So what do we do, what, now that
Right.
we've gone through this?
So we have a motion, do we have a motion? Did I give a motion? Okay, so
don't think
then
so.
I guess that my motion is that the Board of the
The council
Studio.
file?
The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council approves the submission of,
Supports.
No, we prove it.
approves the
We
submission.
prove it.
Okay.
Okay, Lisa, go ahead.
But that's not the word you always use. We use support or
But-
oppose, not approve.
Okay, my motion was gonna go towards approving the submission of these comments with respect to the regulations.
Okay.
I was not, yes, you are right that I usually say we support or oppose when we're addressing the requirements themselves. I'm just saying,
Okay,
we're not
just like,
addressing the
for the IR.
requirements.
Okay.
We're submitting comments here.
We approve the comments.
We approve these comments for submission.
Okay.
Yeah.
I second it.
Okay,
The Board of Studio City Neighborhood Council approves the submission of these comments with respect to the regulations.
that's the attached comments. Okay.
Submission of these attached comments.
With respect to the proposed requirements
Proposed requirements
for commercial cannabis activity
for, oh,
in the city of Los Angeles.
commercial,
Cannabis activity.
cannabis activity
In the city of Los
city of
Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that's the motion. It's brought by me. I need a second.
Lisa
I
seconded
second
it.
it.
Okay. Any further comments?
No.
I know we kind of did it backwards. We usually give a motion and then we
And
go
then we
through
talk.
it. But this was too much we couldn't really do it that way. I felt it was better that everyone had their opportunity to
I thought it was done.
input and
As it
first,
needed to be,
right?
yes.
So that we could then be putting the collective
Yes.
thoughts in as the motion.
No, it was
Okay.
a very in-depth
Okay.
and
Thank you. So we need
lively
to.
conversation. I think
Let's vote.
everyone had
So we need to
input.
vote. So all in favor of the motion? Thank you. It was unanimous. So there are 5 of us here. And you should note that Barry Johnson had left the meeting. I don't
Okay.
know if you noted it in the minutes.
I didn't.
So could you note it that before the vote was taken, Barry Johnson had left the meeting?
He left at 7:15.
Thank you. So that takes us through item number 7. Let's go to item number 8 on the agenda. Comments from members on subject matter within the committee's jurisdiction.
No
Anybody
way,
has
did we?
anything? Yeah, we
We
did
did
that.
the first one
We
before.
did 7 out of
Oh,
order.
Moved it.
okay.
Because we were
And
waiting
we-
for you
And
for
it
this.
passed,
Yeah.
correct? Okay.
Yeah. Slightly amended, but it did pass. We just
Can you
amended
just read
it.
it for me
Yeah.
really quick, or I'll read it?
So, it's just here. This is the motion in the interest of ensuring, and this is Studio
The
City
city doesn't
NC.
really want to hear from
So
us.
it's city,
Well, we never do.
we added here,
We have
right
to.
here,
They have
city
to.
council
It's
committee
enforced.
meetings, and that went in.
Especially Studio City, Valley Village.
Cool.
This is
Okay, all right, so,
See what happens.
the tax base.
comments
You're
on
allowed
matters
to-
for, within the community's jurisdiction. Excuse me, does anybody have any comments? If not, I'm
No.
making a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Yeah.
It's over, thank you.